Thank you for having me. Like I said, this will be brief. I have another meeting that I have to run into. So the first thing that I want to do is just make sure you know where your kind of general guide for marketing is. And so I'm just going to put that in the chat. And this is something that you always have access to. And today I have a quick presentation, which I will send to your professor, and then you can, treasure it and cherish it as much as you want. And I'm going to do my best to kind of demo some searches, but there's quite a lot that I want to share with you. So first, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to start by just showing you just a couple of things on the marketing guide here. You may have already seen this, but I just want to make sure that you know about all of these amazing resources that the university pays for you, and you don't have to pay for anything. If you need further help from me, you can always send me an email. You can set up an appointment, and in the before times, you could use the same software to book a study room and for stuff like that at the library. Obviously, we're closed right now, but it's the same sort of idea where you just choose the time. So it can either be just you, your whole group, whatever you would like to do. But I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things, which is that I have things set up so that if you need to find specific journals, you can. And then there's also information on how to find SWOT analysis, whether you want to use LexisNexis or Business Source Premier. And then there's also links, because I know business students especially always want to have access to the Wall Street Journal, which is a really great resource. And again, we have access to that. So there's links to get to the Wall Street Journal, the LA Times, and the New York Times. So just when you have a chance, just take a look and see what's available for you, and just know that I'm here, if you need further help. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and go into my presentation. I'm hoping that this is going to work where I can kind of go back and forth between PowerPoint and the web. We'll see. I didn't really practice it, so we're just going to see how it works. Okay. So since you're researching almond milk, I went crazy and found a food template. I hope you appreciate all of the food here. So again, I just showed you your guide, and I just want you to know that, well, first of all, my husband and I frequently take care of rescue kittens. This is not one of our cats. This is one that we fostered, and I'm easy to get a hold of. And so just right off the bat, I hope that you are excited at the prospect of finding data for your project, because I was thinking about this, and you might think that it's really kind of a dull thing to do, but this is really your opportunity to be so creative. If you think of how you've been sold items, or when you've been kind of interested in things, it's because someone has used data to kind of make that happen. So rather than just, going to Google or even going to OneSearch and just kind of typing in, almond milk data or something like that, think about, why would someone use almond milk? And in my opinion, there's two main reasons. One is if someone is vegan or vegetarian, but then there's also the medical requirements. And if you think about it, for the longest time, soy milk was the main thing. So if you knew someone who was lactose intolerant, that was kind of their only choice. And in the last, I would say maybe 10 or so years, all of these other types of milks have come on the scene. So that's just something to kind of think about. And you might think about, what are the environmental implications of almond milk? Because first you might think, well, anything that's not actual dairy or meat surely must be more environmentally friendly than almond milk. But I remember reading several years ago that just like with avocados, it takes a ton of milk to run an almond farm. So that's something to think about. And just, I've put these as things to consider, not because I have the answers, but because I just want you to really, like I said, really be creative and just think about, what kind of information do you want to find out? And then one really big thing is, who are the competitors? Are you considering other plant milk companies as competitors, or are you thinking of traditional dairy companies as competitors? I think you could make the argument that they're both kind of competitors, but just, again, something for you to think about. And then in terms of expenses, what are some expenses that are associated with breakfast and coffee and tea? Because that's essentially, I think, kind of the main thrust for almond milk. And again, I can't stress this enough. This is really your opportunity to be super creative, and don't worry about something being crazy in terms of an idea. It's much better to have to be kind of reeled in than to box yourself into a corner. So I would just really encourage you to take your time and think about, what kind of information do I need? But essentially, I think what you're trying to do is figure out, How does almond milk fit into kind of the breakfast landscape? How does it fit in with other milks? Who's buying it? Why? Think about trends and fads and things like that. So if I were working on this, the first thing I would want to do is figure out what's the NAAQS code for almond milk. So I looked it up, and what I think is super interesting is even though almond milk is not milk, if you read into it, if you, excuse me, if you look at a bottle or a container of almond milk, it'll have almond milk as one word, because I think legally, if something isn't dairy, you can't call it milk. So, we'll get into that later, but according to NAAQS, almond milk is a dairy product. So it's listed, so a company like Califia would be listed alongside Nestle, Kraft Heinz, I mean, huge, huge dairy companies. So if you wanted to find more information, oh, I'm sorry, got too excited here. You can go to Mergent Online, which is one of the databases that's listed on your marketing guide. And you would use the primary NAAQS code of 3115, just with the caveat that what Mergent is going to do is show you the revenue and kind of like the management structure of these huge companies. So Califia is still, I think it's still considered private because it seems like they're kind of relying on funding and venture capital and stuff like that. So it's almost kind of unfair to compare a small private company to like a monster company like Nestle, but that's what you can find. So, and if we have time, we can come back, but I just wanted to let you know that's kind of give you sort of like the universe for everything that's under dairy products. So where you can find really, really incredible resources is in Business Source Premier. So my hope is that you've used Business Source Premier to find things like SWOT analysis and trade reports and things like that. So what I did is just went in and searched for Califia. I also searched for almond milk, and I found my subject headings are milk substitutes, fluid milk manufacturing. Again, even though it's not a fluid milk, it's still kind of lumped in with that. And then also almond milk as a subject heading. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. I found amazing articles that you wouldn't necessarily think that they're going to give you data, but because plant-based milk is such a hot topic right now, so many people are writing about it. So I found some of the articles that I found were It's All Dairy Good, Plant-Based Products See Continued Success, Almond Milk Continues to Lead Dairy Alternative Segments, In the Dairy Case, Traditional Milk Fights Back. So that's, again, another thing that you can kind of look at is, it seems to me that there's a few new things that have kind of come up in the last couple of years, like oat milk, pea milk. It just seems like if there's a plant, people are going to try to figure out how to make milk out of it. And in terms of competitors strictly just for almond milk, you can look for information on Blue Diamond, Silk, and Dannon. Those seem to be kind of like the big ones. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, good, this is working. So, and this is also working so beautifully because you can see exactly what's going to happen. If you're not familiar with our databases, you're always going to see the screen that says access to restricted resources. And you log in exactly the same way you do to Canvas and to the portal. So I'm going to log in. And here's my screen. So I can just do, let's see. If I type in almond milk, it just types it in. I can also look at some of those other terms that we were looking at, which is like fluid milk, stuff like that. But you can see just doing a search on almond milk, I get 250 articles. So now what's interesting is normally I think you could make the argument that peer-reviewed articles are going to be helpful. With almond milk, the articles that are coming up are so in the other direction, I wouldn't waste your time, because you can see the first thing that's coming up, they're looking at fortification, they're looking at the chemistry. You don't need to worry about any of that. You are probably going to want more things like trade journals, newspaper articles. So here, when I mentioned that almond milk's not really milk, you can see there's an article from Bloomberg where they talk about how there's legal cases behind that the dairy industry is pushing for almond milk not to be considered almond milk. There's also, there's like, what do the dairy farmers think? Almond milk boom, Silk's huge sales lead the way, just in terms of, soy milk kind of going the other way. And I'm just going to show you an article that I found just to kind of give you a sense of what's available. There's this article called Flexing the Market. So this is something where I wouldn't have necessarily thought that it would have a lot of good data, but you can see I had no idea there were so many almond, brands of almond milk, and Blue Diamond is definitely leading the charge just in their sales, how much it's gone up in the last year. And then you can see Califia is fourth, and it's a pretty distant fourth. I mean, especially if you compare it to Blue Diamond, but that could be kind of interesting. And then if you look at soy milk, which for the longest time, like I said, was the only game in town, their sales have just plummeted. And so it just sort of gives you some information, like comparing different options. And then they also, if you kind of look into this, this is where they talk about oat milk, pea protein, the different things that are coming in. And the mention of flex is the idea of flexitarian, or someone who isn't fully vegetarian, but is interested and open to trying new things. And I think that's something that you'll see with almond milk, because it is so trendy. You'll just kind of see like what is motivating people to buy it, to use it instead of a traditional dairy milk. So this is an article that I found in Business Source Premier. And I just want to point out, again, it seems like it's just maybe even a throwaway article, but it has all of this amazing data right there. And so what you could do is you could also, look for information about Califia, but I will just warn you that most of the content is about changes in their leadership or in their financing. Like you can see they have a new CFO. So I don't know that there's a ton of great information in here. I think you kind of need to broaden your search. And again, that's where I think it's going to be helpful to be creative. So again, just kind of keep these subject headings in mind. And if it's going to be helpful, you could even look for a full report on Blue Diamond or on Silk, because those are kind of bigger established companies. So that might give you some good data there. The other place that you can look is IBIS World. So this is going to be a good place to take advantage of those NACS codes. So and see, it's asking me to log in again. Everything is working beautifully. So, and I want to say it's 31151. I think that's our NACS code. And so once you go into IBIS World, it's lightning fast here. You can search by industry, keyword, company, or code. So we know that we want, let's see. I know that there's a report called Soy and Almond Milk Production. So what's nice about IBIS is it's a lot of data, but you have to kind of weed through it. So here they're showing you the growth, the profit margin, and I find this thrilling. I hope that you're excited that there's so much good content in here, but you can see they give you a snapshot, key industry data, and you can see soy milk is just really, it's not popular anymore. Almond milk is insanely popular within the plant milk family. And then these other ones are kind of pulling in the rear, like coconut and rice. And here they're giving you the companies, like I said, Blue Diamond is a big one, Dannon is a big one. So there's all sorts of interesting things here. And you know that it's prepared by experts. So this I think would be an awesome report to use in your quest for data. And this is just one of the reports. So it might be kind of interesting to compare it to regular dairy milk. It might be interesting to look at what's happening elsewhere kind of in breakfast foods. So you might find it interesting to look at who are the top, cereal producers. So that's what I mean. You can look at whatever you want. I just want you to know that this is here, and we haven't always had it. I want to say we got IBIS World maybe 10 years ago. So I just would encourage you to take advantage of everything that you have access to. So like I said, we looked at soy and almond milk, but there's basically no end to what you can find in IBIS World. Okay, then we've got Data Planet. Data Planet, I confess, is not the easiest tool to use. So I would say have a glass of wine, relax, go through it. I find it a little bit stressful. What I did just as a kind of like a test is you can drill down to the county level. So I looked at Los Angeles and Ventura, figuring that's where most of our students are, and looked at how much our households in LA and Ventura spending on non-dairy products, like per household. And you can see non-dairy products are much more popular in LA than Ventura. And this is specifically what they refer to as non-dairy cream and imitation milk, So again, kind of an interesting way to look at it. They're not specifically referring to it as plant-based. So this is one thing that you can look at. And again, I do not want to purport to be a power user of Data Planet because I do find it a little bit challenging. But if you're patient and you just kind of play around with it, you can see there's all sorts of information in here. And it's essentially, I think what I find a little bit challenging is its actual data set. So it's, if you're not really a numbers person, it can be kind of overwhelming, but you can even just do a basic search. I mean, I think I just put in almond milk and then I was able to kind of pull up different sets. And maybe you're not as terrified of this as I am, but there's all sorts of different things that you can look at. You can look at what are people buying in terms of groceries. And again, you can narrow it down to a zip code, to a county, to a state. And I think you'll see as you're doing your research that plant-based products, I think they're kind of picking up steam nationwide, but they're really, really popular in California. And Califia, of course, is a California company. Most almonds are grown in California. So I think that you're probably going to want to look at what's happening in California. So, and there is also help on Data Planet. There are different guides to how you can use it. And, you know, don't take my fear on. I mean, I was able to at least find some good information. It's not as user-friendly as IBIS World or Business Source Premier. And it's a little bit more challenging, but I do encourage you to just see if there's anything that's going to be helpful for you there. And then finally, well, actually not finally, there's two other things to show you. You can actually find a lot of really helpful information in one search. So I did a search on almond milk. I put it in quotes so that I can search for it as essentially one term. And then I added data. And what I did, because, you know, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the peer-reviewed or academic content on plant-based milk is related to food science, chemistry, or engineering. And I don't think that has any bearing on your research. So I removed that. I also removed dissertations because it's the same kind of thing. It's not really getting you on the right track. I think what you want to focus on is trade journals and maybe newspapers. So you can see just by doing that, and I want to say I set also my limits to maybe the last 5 or 6 or 6, 7, 8 years. Mostly what's happening is these huge chains are introducing plant-based milk, which is interesting because I feel like for years, you were lucky if you could even get something other than maybe like half and half or skim milk. But now you go to a place like Dunkin' Donuts and you can get 5 different types of plant-based milk. So I think that can be really interesting. And I would just say, and I'd be happy to help you with your group if you're using OneSearch. When you're using OneSearch, you're in charge. So whatever terms you set up, make sure that you're taking advantage of all of these ways that you can kind of narrow on the left. So you can control the date, the name of the publication, the year, because I know sometimes when you search OneSearch, you end up with so much just kind of extraneous information. So really don't give up if you don't get the right thing, and just remember to kind of start broad and make sure that you can narrow everything down. And then finally, you should find a lot of really interesting content in newspapers. And I know I mentioned a few of these are linked from your guide, but I would say there's probably, I don't know that there's specifically something about Califia every day in the Wall Street Journal, but there is almost always something about plant-based food, plant-based milks. So, and again, I don't want you ever to think that you have to pay for content. The library subscribes to all of these databases and journals and newspapers and electronic books. So even if you know, oh, the New York Times had an article about Califia that appeared last week, unless you're a subscriber and you're not going to be charged to go to their website, just go to either ProQuest Global Newsstream or go directly to this link. I'm just going to show you what this looks like. Actually, we'll do the Wall Street Journal just for the sake of argument. Just don't use OneSearch. It doesn't work well for newspapers. But if you are specifically wanting to find something in the Wall Street Journal, you can see this link takes you right here. Oh God, this is embarrassing. I have to fix the link. Okay. Oh, Lindsay. Okay, so I will fix this as soon as we get off of Zoom. But essentially what it's going to do is take you right to ProQuest Global Newsstream. So I am going to fix this for you. There we go. I'm just making a note for myself. Okay, So here's our newspaper, and you can see it's updated every day. So if where it says search within this publication, it means you're searching everything in the Wall Street Journal from '84 to the present. So I could search for Califia and see what we find. And yeah, so there's only 5 results, but again, you're creative searchers, so you're not going to worry too much about that. So here's what you could do: almond milk, or you could do plant-based milk. You could do fluid milk manufacturing. So you can see there's all sorts of different articles that are here. Yeah, here, supermarkets now have a baffling array of milk alternatives. That's the kind of thing that you would want to look at, because I'm sure that it's going to have some sort of number or data in here. And everything in here is full text. Okay, so that's the Wall Street Journal. And again, I'll fix that link for you. There's also often content in the LA Times and the New York Times. Harvard Business Review might have some good stuff. And again, I just don't want you to pay for anything, which is why I put this in all caps here. And if you're not able to find an article that you need, whether it's in a journal or a newspaper, a magazine, whatever, always use interlibrary loan. We can usually get something to you within a day or two, and you wouldn't believe how much journals and even magazines and newspapers will charge you just for a single article. The New York Times, I think, will only charge you maybe $3 or $4, but an academic journal can charge you up to $50 or $60 for an article, and we can always get it to you for free. Okay, so I am going to have a couple of minutes for questions, but I just wanted to again stress it's very easy to reach me. You can send me an email, you can go to your guide, and I encourage you to schedule an appointment if you want, either for your whole group or just one kind of like rep for the group. I am so excited to have marketing for as long as I can have it, and I would love to help you. So for now, I am going to go ahead and stop sharing. And then I know this was like the world's quickest introduction to finding things, but if you have any questions, hit me.
Go ahead. There's just a few minutes, so there's probably one question, I suppose. Don't be shy.
I have a question. Thank you for presenting, by the way.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask if it will be presentable, like, is Professor gonna have it linked for us for that website? That way we could just go straight to the link or the PowerPoint.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to send it. Once I fix that Wall Street Journal link, I'm going to send it, and then, yeah,
Okay.
it's shareable. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Would you say that you feel less nervous about finding data? I don't expect you to be as excited about it as I am, but do you feel a little bit more on board with it now?
Yeah, it helps a lot to have more resources to find and use. That way it's easier to find resources and stuff.
Yeah,
I think if you can reframe it as an opportunity, I mean, not to make everything into a SWOT analysis, but if you can kind of reframe it as an opportunity where you're in charge, and it almost makes me cry. I'm so excited at the idea of you doing data research, but it's just, you have such an opportunity. You get to control I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it'd be one thing if you were being asked to just get like, oh, okay, what are the sales? And I don't know. I feel like you're
the Google researches and stuff that you look up, and then you don't want to use that because it's not like the deep info, if that makes sense. So it's like to have more resources and stuff, because I try to look up things on like the CSUN library, but I didn't know how to like work my way around it that well. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, harder for me, especially like online. So I mean, I don't know, wait, but like it's just easier to have more resources, and I appreciate that for you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. This was awesome. I knew you'd be doing so well, but I'm very impressed. And we can see your passion, because what Lindsay didn't say, but she actually worked and she has a degree, a part in marketing, right? And
I took classes.
Yeah, you took classes, and she told me she really liked it. And then you worked in data management. I think it was Nielsen, or I forgot which big.
Oh gosh, no. So I worked for a market research firm in the Twin Cities where our clients were banks. It was not super exciting, but then I worked for a company that did electronic banking and payment processing years ago. That little company got bought by Intuit in 2001. So this was quite a while ago, but I've just, I mean, my dad was a marketing professor, and
that's right.
Yeah, it's just completely ingrained in my blood. So whenever we wanted to do anything as kids, my dad always wanted us to do a spreadsheet or, figure out a chart of how it was going to work. I'll just give you an example. I had a Walkman, and I really wanted to get a Discman. This is when I was in high school. And he said, I want you to do the math of how much it would cost to convert all your CDs to cassettes, and then let me know if it's worth the cost of buying the Discman. And it wasn't. It was way cheaper just to convert everything, which... So, and that's, but it honestly taught me, I mean, I think sometimes data can be overwhelming, or you might be concerned about it, but I think you'll find, irrespective of your industry, you can't just do what you want unless you have the data to back it up. But the good news is you can manipulate the data to portray the story that you want to tell. So it's, it's kind of two-sided, but I find nothing more frustrating than when I'm working on a project and someone tells me, well, we've always done it that way, or it would be nice to do it this way. Like, you don't want to do something that's nice. You want to do something that's backed up by data. So that's why I find it exciting, because I feel like there's just so many opportunities to do the right thing and not do something because it would be nice. It's ridiculous.
That's right. So that's it. I'm glad you came and you said that, because I spend a lot of time explaining ideas are worth nothing unless they are supported by that.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you can have a nice idea, but it's just, unless you can actually substantiate it, it's just going to remain an idea.
Exactly.
I don't want to crush people's dreams, but I do want to crush them a little bit, because my dad always said you have to be logical, and you have to have a plan.